Hope everybody is well. Hi, Chaotic, Taffy, Chris. If you guys don't mind going out and sharing this live on social media, me and Denise got to talking. Mrs. Horvath, we got talking. And so I have not shared it yet, and I would really appreciate it for some shares. We're going to start today by I'm going to share a video on Charles's missing YouTube, and it's her and her friend, and she'll introduce her and tell us a little bit about her song When We Come Back. So we're going to listen to this real quick just to get some people here, and we're going to all go out and share, and then we'll be right back.
Today is where my book begins. I've got a lot to say. My fences higher. I took my trenches wider since you went away. I feel the mist closing in. We saw this great creation. I've given up the world I know in blind anticipation. To carry you along on a train and the fiery tides, trying to bring some light on your name. The darkness in my soul, into my wake up song. Today is where my book begins, when notes are underway. Stretching down my fences, I'm building in my trenches, and I'm dreaming of a journey to a place where there's no losing you again. By the bush I hear me judge, and not one word will fall upon the ground. And then you see all you have done. You'll beg the clouds to open, but you run because you're too afraid to face what happened was to weigh you down. The darkness in my soul, to my broken soul. Strength to face my enemies, the smile and with empathy, the troubles you don't inflict on me, the tears that haven't blinded me. Let hope shine in all I know, lay me safely down before I say farewell. Lord, I'm here with the darkness in my soul, to my broken soul. Lord, I'm here with love in my soul, to my broken soul.
My dog is deciding to get rowdy. I'm sorry about that, everybody. Hopefully you don't hear him too bad. Hi, Faye. Hey, Chris, Cher, Chaotic. Thank you guys for sharing. I've got it out there a little bit. This is Mrs. Denise Horvath-Allan. This is Charles's mother. I made a video about Charles, and then I did a live, and then we also did a video, and So what I figured is we would just have Mrs. Horvath kind of walk us through. She has done her own investigation. This is her son, and she is the epitome of the steadfast love of a mother and the unconditional, just everything that everything that she's done has been for her son her whole life, and you can see that in the actions that she's taken, and she's never quit, and she's never given up, and she's kept going. And there's so many of us that need to be there for people that have to live that like this. This is one of the hardest things, I think it is. I really think your child missing. I've covered cases where a child is missing and they were found murdered. Shannon Polk, and both of her parents said, "At least we know where our daughter is. We can go and visit her." And even though she's no longer on this earth, they know where she is and they have her back. And for Mrs. Allen, just not knowing your whole life, 33, almost 33 years of just not knowing and not having your child back. And that song, I think, is so precious because that's all she wants, is to bring her son home. Who was your friend that joined you?
The pianist was Janelle Rapp.
Oh,
She's the founder. She's a singer-songwriter who flew up from Los Angeles
oh,
to support
wow.
me, and she's the founder of Gina Foundation for Missing People. Her
Okay.
sister
She's,
Gina sadly disappeared when she was
oh,
40. That's
wow.
20 years ago. And of course, for an older person, the media are not interested in older missing people. And Janelle has been
Mm.
amazing in supporting families of the missing. And she travels across the US 6 weeks in the autumn doing a squeaky wheel tour. And she
Oh, I watched some of those songs. That was real. They're really good. You have them
and
on
she,
your channel.
and she came up to Kelowna for 3 days for me.
Wow. That's a good friend. That's
She is
awesome.
an amazing woman.
And
Amazing.
you're in the choir as well, right? The missing persons choir?
Oh, I'm in the Missing People Choir in London.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That is so cool. That is very cool. Um, okay, so can everybody hear us okay? I know there's a little bit of background issues going on. Um, I hope it's not too bad. You guys let me know. Hey, Hoosier. Hey, Carly. Thank you guys, Lance. Thank you guys for being here today. And just remember to be respectful in the chat, and keep in mind to be respectful to Charles's mother. And let's just have a good time. And hopefully, when we get to the end of this, we can at least bring awareness. And I know I have some emails I would like to write. I have a ton of questions, and I know that some of them will get answered today, and then it'll narrow down what I really want to concentrate on and asking. So, okay, Hoosier says there's a little background noise, but it's not too bad. Okay, we've shut a window, we've shut the door. We've tried to adjust our mics here, so I think we're about all we know how to do, because you guys know I'm not tech savvy. Are you tech savvy? No. All right. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at the video that I did. Well, the Google Earth side of the video that I did. And then I have some questions for her, and we're just going to work our way through the video and the kind of timeline. And then we're going to really concentrate on what she's done since. But I want to spend some time and get to know Charles. Hey Gray, thanks for coming by. So yeah, I want to take some time to get to know Charles, highlighting him. He is the whole purpose we're here. And so we're going to go ahead and get started on that. I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll just kind of work the way through the Google Earth thing that I did. Hopefully Gray's in here. Gray is the Google Earth master. I started out on Google Maps, but it's just not pretty. So I kind of copied off of him. And so we're going to get started with this and kind of take a look. Okay, so we start over here. And so how are, like you said, you grew up in England, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you ended up in Canada at some point. Can you tell us a little bit about like your family dynamics and your, just the early years of living in Canada and your relationship, just anything that you want to share?
I was born in Yorkshire, England, and we travelled in my childhood because my father was in the Navy. We lived in Malta and Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And came back to Yorkshire because my grandparents were based here.
Okay.
And then decided to emigrate to Canada when I was 18. And I lived with a family in Vancouver where I met Charles's father, Max.
Oh, okay. In Vancouver.
Yes, we were married very young, very quickly.
Oh,
And in British Columbia. And we travelled across Canada. And
okay.
we ended up in northern Ontario.
That's so fun.
Bitter cold.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
30 below zero. 6 months of
Wow.
the year.
That
And
just doesn't even seem like it's inhabitable.
yes, you couldn't breathe in. And Charles was born there in the
Uh-huh.
Karoly Hospital.
Okay.
And sorry,
And he was born on August. What was his birth date?
21st of August,
August
1968.
21st. Okay. And then how old were you when he was born?
19.
Okay. And then so you kind of, I mean, he was kind of following in your footsteps a little bit, eh?
Oh,
Just
yes,
like
adventurer.
definitely. He's a lot like his mama then. So that's really cool. So I have on here, we're just kind of like, how was it? How was your pregnancy with Charles? Was it an easy one or was it
Pretty
uh,
grim.
pretty grim?
I was sick from him being for a
Oh,
few weeks pregnant till 3 months after he was born. I was very, very ill.
oh
And
wow. I had one of those as well.
I nearly died in Karoly. I was in the hospital for a month.
Oh wow. Right.
My
Yeah.
grandparents.
I think we kind of like mirrored each other, except I was born a decade after Charles. But yeah, where he's, I don't know, maybe that's why we connected. Just like I could see it, like you were telling me that he had some of the same things, which we'll get to. I get ahead of myself because I do have ADHD too. Um, but so you're definitely a hard pregnancy. But what about after he was born? What kind of a baby was he? Was he
Oh, it was
happy?
the most precious thing on earth that I gave
Oh,
birth to my baby. And
yeah.
the staff were so enamored that they said his lip colouring was the same as his father's. And they told his father when he came to the hospital, well, you can't deny he's yours. He's an image of you.
Aw.
That he was born in the top picture.
Aw. Yeah, so I was gonna say that top picture there. So that's Charles's dad and you and baby
The,
Charles.
the hospital was brand new in Margaret Coulson Hospital. And
Oh,
the
okay.
kitten, the right lady, died. It absolutely ruined me. They were so good, lovely.
Aw.
And
And this
then
is a beautiful picture.
my
Where are you
grandparents.
guys at in this picture here?
This is back in England.
Okay.
He's about 10 months, 1 year old, I
Oh my
think.
gosh, he's so cute. He's just adorable. So how old was Charles when you left Koshinor. Did I say it right this time?
Kosher. He was
Koshinor.
5 weeks old. My
Oh,
grandparents paid our tickets to fly me home because I was so sick, and they could help look
oh,
after me. And
oh, I
so
see.
the three of us flew back from Cochino via Montreal to visit
Okay.
some of his family and his grandma. And we flew home
Okay.
to England, back to Yorkshire,
And
where
that is that where you stayed until Charles had left? Had you
sorry,
stayed? Had you stayed? Is that pretty much where Charles grew up?
yes. Um,
Okay.
uh, when he was 10 months old, Max had to go back to Canada because the Foreign Office had messed up his paperwork. And I didn't want
Hmm.
to go back. We hadn't got the money. But eventually I did go back, but not for long. The winter in Montreal, I think it was one of the worst in 100 years.
Oh
19,
wow. Yeah,
1970, Christmas 1970.
oh wow.
The whole city closed down for the night, and the children had to stay at nursery overnight. And I had to go into work and manage the switchboard in French and Italian and say that the fact that the lab is closed.
Oh
Um,
well, what
and
do you
then
do?
I came back home to England, and
Gotcha.
Charles was then raised in England, and Max
Oh.
stayed in Canada.
Do
And
you
we
have a
divorced.
do you have a cute story of Charles when he was kind of in those adolescent years, the toddler year, or like do you have a funny or cute or sweet story you would like to share with us about Charles?
So it's difficult to recall, but I know one when I went back to Canada for a couple of months to pay for all the tickets and everything. Charles stayed with my mom, and he was desolate without me. And my mum was saying to him, your nana doesn't love naughty boys. It's
Oh.
just in him. And he says, no, but my mummy does. And that
Aw.
in my heart, it breaks my heart.
Aw.
But my mummy does.
Aw.
He knew I'd die for him. I'd go to the end of the world for him.
Yeah, that's love. That's the unconditional. You don't know it until you have a child, what that word even means, unconditional. Like, there's conditions to our love for everyone else in our lives, or there should be, except for a child. And there's nothing. And I really respect you as a mother. I think you are phenomenal. And I'm thank you for sharing that story about him when he was little. And I wanted to go and you had sent me a picture of Charles when he was a young, spunky teenager, and he is like got a mohawk
Oh,
and he is looking very James Dean cool. Do you have a cute story about Charles from when he was a teenager? Was he rowdy? Was he mischievous?
the punk years.
The punk years.
And the dreadful tattoo he came home with one day.
Oh no, that was when he was a teenager?
Yeah, he broke my heart, but the more upset I was about it, the more he would show his arms off to show the
Oh my
tattoo.
goodness. That's funny. So he
So
had a mischievous side to him then,
it's
huh?
part of growing up, isn't it? They
Yeah,
all.
I did the same thing. I got a hideous lizard on my back
Oh,
to yeah, it's really bad. And then the Geico gecko got really popular in the United States, and it's a gecko, so you can imagine the grief and I got for having the Geico gecko on my back, and but my parents were so upset.
I bet for a girl.
Yeah. And then for some reason I decided I was going to get my tongue pierced. the day I turned 18, because that's when you could do it here in the States, and I went and got this ring in my tongue. I didn't even really know anything about any of this stuff. I grew up very sheltered. So I got a tattoo, a ring in my tongue, and I did some other really bad made some really bad choices at 18, the day I turned 18. And my daddy grabbed my face like this, and he's like, "Open your mouth." Well, I've only seen him get mad like maybe 2 or 3 times, and that was one of them. Did Charles
Unfortunately,
have
he
siblings?
only had a piercing in his ear, an earring.
Well,
Not,
that's good. You didn't have to deal
not
with
as
a tongue
drastic
ring.
as nowadays. Uh,
So do you have any so the tattoo that was, I'm sure that was it's a mohawk of a skull and a mohawk, so he got right into the punk scene with that
oh
one.
yes, he used to do his hair. He was the cleanest punk in town. His clothes were in the washing machine every day, and he'd get a new jacket and cut the arms off, the sleeves off,
Oh my goodness. He
and
was a nice dresser.
and you know, but part of growing up.
Aw. Yeah. So was he, you had mentioned to me before we started that he had ADHD, and I mean, I can relate. So that kind of made him kind of gregarious, kind of get in trouble, but really like not get in trouble, but just kind of always, was he always looking for the next thing, just wanting to kind of
Mischief.
explore? Was he an explorer?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that why he wanted to go on this trip?
Well, he was born in Canada. He wanted to visit the country of his birth and see his dad, who'd been divorced since he was young. He had been out for vacations a few times, which I paid for. Sadly, his father didn't contribute.
Oh,
But he went to see his grandmother in Montreal, and his dad, his father remarried, had another son, and
mhm,
and just find his feet.
mhm.
And so I got him the plane ticket for an early 21st present, and
Okay.
we discussed where we might meet for his 21st birthday. And he said, "Mummy, will you come to Canada?" And I thought, oh my God. Last place I want to go. But I said, of course we will, of course. Anyway, by the time he got to Montreal, when I
Uh-huh.
visited for Christmas, he decided he was going to come home for his 21st.
Okay. Real
We,
quick, I just wanted everybody to see the tattoo you were talking about and the stylish. Here's one of the stylish pictures of Charles. We'll go through my folder. I have a folder of images that she sent me that I'll go through here in a little bit, and we can kind of look at those at the end. And I wanted to welcome Polygraph and Lance and Shanda and Tina to our live today. Thank you guys for being here. And so he leaves from the Leeds Bradford and he goes to Montreal. So we zoom all the way over here. And so now we are in Canada. Canada is the second largest state in our big wide world. And here is Charles. He lands in Montreal. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay. And then he ends up at the Delta Hotel. Is that
yes. He
okay?
was working during the day in Saint Laurent, and he got
Okay.
the job in the evening modeling. And this was a
Oh,
fashion show. This is
oh,
the night before when he was posing. And this
okay.
is at his aunt's where we went for dinner. And
Oh, very
the
cool.
bearded uh, mustache was grown for the modeling assignment. Normally, he was
Oh,
clean shaven.
okay, gotcha. And that was one of the things with the missing flyer, right?
Yes.
They had him with his mustache, and he didn't normally have one. So,
They didn't do a missing flyer. The newspaper that I paid for the ad published
oh,
the photo with the facial hair and omitted the clean shaven one. And then the police,
ah,
when they put it in the newspaper a little bit later, they still use the, the one with facial hair, which didn't flatter him and didn't resemble him at all.
mm. I don't know. Yeah, that's not, that is I've noticed that. And so I want to be clear, like, his Charles is the name, his, also known as name, but his birth name was, I want to make sure we say it correctly. Can you say that for us, Mrs. Allen?
Karoly John Horvath.
Karoly. Okay.
Karoly is Charles in Hungarian, his father.
Oh,
Um,
I see. I got you. Okay.
they originated from Budapest in Hungary. They
Very
left with
cool.
the uprising in '57, and the
Right. Okay.
Red Cross
And they went to,
sent
did
them to
he?
Canada.
Okay. So he from Hungary to Canada is where his dad predominantly lived, in
Yeah,
Hungary and Canada.
he grew up in Montreal.
Okay. Was Charles close with his father?
Well, you know, he knew who he was. He didn't really know him well,
Right.
because obviously in those days, telephones and the communications that we have nowadays were absolute luxuries. But no,
Very true.
I kept in touch for Charles's sake, and you know,
Hmm.
he knew who his grandma was, and I did the best I could.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. This is Cochinor. I know
Coaching
I'm saying it with my Hoosier dialect, Cochina. I'm trying. You just sound so, your voice, I love your accent, and you just sound so proper. I love it, but I feel like I sound like a hillbilly when I'm talking to someone as eloquent as you.
Oh,
What a beautiful area this is, though. I was checking it out, just
oh,
kind
it
of the
was terrible.
landscape.
It was in the bushland.
Oh,
There was
it
no,
was? It looks so
there was no way
pretty.
out. There was no
Well,
way out. You could only fly out or drive out. There was no train or bus or anything. It
so it's
was
just this tiny little town, right? I mean, there's
the
literally,
dead end. The road ended, and the, you had to go by seaplane to fly into fishing camp resorts, which
yeah. See,
people from the US used to come up and fly into these luxury holidays. To me, it was hell on earth, because all the
oh,
bugs, the
yeah.
sand bugs, and the black flies and the
Oh,
mosquitoes, they made a meal of me for 2 months. Unfortunately,
oh,
once I was in hospital, the horseflies were out, and I was in hospital,
oh.
so they didn't get me.
I don't like flies at all. I, I
Oh,
I get so grossed out by flies. Ugh. But yeah, when you look at the area, you can really see just what exactly you were talking about.
and the bears. It was 300 miles from civilization.
Oh wow. And so this is Thunder Bay, where Charles's father, how do you say his name? Is it Arfad or Arpad?
Max,
Max is what he went by, though. Okay.
Max.
And
I
and
did go to Thunder Bay to see them. Um,
oh, okay. Wouldn't
snow,
on
snowing.
this Is there any, I know we have a little bit of a delay, so we're sorry if we are interrupting each other, guys. We were talking about that before we started. Was there a time that between your visit with him in Montreal and Thunder Bay that you spoke with Charles, or when was your next communication with him on his trip from December?
Um,
Mm.
Well, he left Montreal to go to Karoly to see his godfather,
Mm-hmm.
and he would call, Mummy, I'm at Gabby's, can you ring me back? When he was on a landline, obviously it was less expensive for me to call. And,
Okay.
whenever he wanted to chat, he'd just call and I'd call him back.
Gotcha.
Uh,
So you talked to him quite a bit then.
oh, yes, he was in touch the whole way across the country. He didn't want his
Okay.
nana to worry.
Aw.
The most important thing is, tell my nana not to worry. How are the
Aw.
cats?
How are yeah, you had said that to me. How are the cats and how's Nana? That's so cute.
He adored his.
Um, well, I adore your cats too. I would like to have it. And then you were telling me as we were kind of just writing back and forth that you actually, this check that he cashed in Swift Current, you have that, correct? Like you have the copy of that
Yes,
one?
yes, yes, yes. It was a joint account, and in those days, you got checks returned to you. When they'd been through the system.
Okay,
Uh,
so it was a
so
joint account with you.
I actually have the check, um,
Very,
and I went to the Swift. I backtracked all his movements, and I
oh,
went to Swift Current and met the teller who cashed the check for him, and so
wow.
he remembered his beautiful smile.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. So that's really like you literally did everything like so right in your search for your son. I mean, just the way that you went about it was so
It was so
systematic.
hard. It was
Did
so
did you have help from like an investigator or private investigator or
we had no idea about anything like that. We didn't have the money. It cost so much to go there. Just me and my mom. It cost a
yeah,
fortune. And obviously, I was hoping I'd find him by
yeah,
the end, get home. But sadly, it
yeah.
wasn't to be.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that you had told me too, is that he had left his passport on accident in
Oh,
um
when he left Gabby's in Cochina, he left all his formal clothes there and his ski gear, and just took backpack and casual clothes,
okay.
to go on his travels. And Gabby later shipped them to Vancouver, so I had his belongings.
And then
And
his passport was in there as well, right?
we didn't know, but he'd lost his passport, and Gabby found it down the side of the chair. Of
Oh
course, by the
wow.
time this was found, we'd lost contact with Charles, so we couldn't tell him that we'd found his passport. So I now have it in my possession.
Yeah.
Obviously,
So
it's
you can't
expired.
really go too many places without a passport and we'll get into that a little why that's important a little bit later, but his next so you spoke with him when he was at which what a beautiful
Back,
hotel I have to say.
that's the
So
rebuilt hotel.
oh, it's
Um,
built, gotcha.
it's still a beautiful hotel. My mum and I stayed there a couple
Mm-hmm.
of nights, and we went to
Yeah, it's
Banff Springs in the hot water. The healing waters.
oh really? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of springs there.
Does it show? Oh wow.
I think it probably does have a
It,
I don't
it
know
is
about the
at the top
springs,
of the
but
mountain. The pool with the spring is incredible.
it's
Anyway,
probably gonna freeze.
when I met his boss Anna, she was amazing. We've been friends for many many years, and she remembers his heels clicking on his boots going down the hallways.
Aw. Is this it
Oh,
here?
this is the new Rimrock. Right.
Yeah.
It's a big hotel.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful mountain and just the area.
When
Uh,
we arrived in Banff, I was driving the car and it was dark, and all of a sudden these huge elks came in front of us across the road. I've never seen anything like it.
oh
They were
wow.
enormous.
Oh, I bet that was was a neat sight.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, this looks like a very mountainous area that he next landed in. But you can
Lots
kind
of
of see where
snow. Lots of
he
snow.
stuck, he stuck with a pretty good pattern
Freezing
um,
cold.
as he made his way across Canada, because that was kind of his goal when he set out on September 21st, was to trek across, spinning around the world.
Not that quick.
Not that quick, unfortunately. One day maybe. But, yeah, I mean, he pretty much he came from and stayed, he did kind of a jag there, but with the terrain, it would be expected. But once he left from Thunder Bay, he pretty much was well on his way to ending up right in Vancouver, and that would have been the end of his trip there,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, I assume so. We
Yeah,
hadn't
well, it was
gone into
supposed
such
to
fine
be.
detail. He had enough money when he left for 3 months, and if he worked, he was entitled to work there because he was born in Canada. He had a social insurance number, and if he worked his way, he'd stay as long as he wanted to, or until, as coming up to his birthday.
Mhm. And then when he was staying at the Rimrock, was that a fax or
Collect
a
call,
collect
collect
call? Okay.
very very expensive collect call,
Oh,
and
I bet. I bet.
I kept saying, "What's the number? I'll call you back. What's the number?" I
Oh,
don't know. He was a dreamer. He didn't live on this planet. So
oh, I love
I
that
didn't want to
though.
hang up. So 17 minutes, and I was in the middle of doing a facial on a client.
Oh,
Fortunately, it was somebody I knew well.
well, that's good.
We talked for 17 minutes, or 17 or 20 minutes.
Oh,
And this is when we discussed about where we might rendezvous for his birthday. Because when we were in Montreal, he said, "Oh, Mommy, I'm coming home for my birthday."
oh,
And it was at that point where he said, "I'm coming on such a date." I said, "Well, why would you come on that date if you're only getting a week off work?" And he said, "Mom, you're 40 on the 17th, and life begins at 40." It
well,
was so
that's right.
important for him to be at my 40th. And
Oh, that's
no
so
matter
sweet.
how hard I tried, the police didn't want to hear my words.
It's so sad. I'm so sorry.
And so on the on the telephone, I suggested, how about we meet in Hong Kong, where I'd spent 2 years at school, and I could show him, where I'd gone to school and where we lived and the magic of
Mhm.
Hong Kong. And I told him to find out how much the ticket was and let me know.
Yeah. And we kind of know that he was talking to his friend that he had met, Joanne, in Kelowna, right?
Well, after he left
Um,
Banff, and he
Banff, he went to,
arrived in
yeah.
Kelowna 3rd of May the 3rd, 1989. And it was from there he sent his last letter home. He sent it by fax, and
Mhm.
it stated how much the ticket would cost from Vancouver to Hong Kong. And he befriended a family there. He sent it from
Mhm.
roast stationers, and
Mhm.
even the lady in roast stationers remembered him.
Oh, really? I
Yes.
wanted I wanted to I don't really want to interrupt, but I wanted to tell everybody I am probably, because all I see on my screen is Google Earth. And so I'm just looking at, like, but when I have my phone propped up here on the right of me, and so I am looking at Mrs. Horvath because I want to pay it. It probably looks like I'm just like looking off to the side. But I'm actually looking at her because it helps me to be able to have a conversation. But I want to be able to kind of show all these places as well, but I also wanna look at her. So I am actually looking at you, Mrs. Horvath, and I'm not just, like, looking off into the corner of my closet. But so we have, he sent his fax from Bernard Avenue,
It's
and
downtown.
then Yeah, kind of downtown area here. But basically, we kind of went through all of these different points in Kelowna on the video. Was there what did you speak with him at any point when he was in Kelowna on the phone?
No, I was waiting for his telephone call to
Okay,
to enable me to book the tickets. For,
gotcha.
our rendezvous in August. But sadly, the phone call never came.
Yeah,
And
that is
Joanne's above family, they befriended him, and he told Joanne he thought the ticket was very expensive and was a bit anxious because
no.
he'd already cost me a lot of money with his ski things in Montreal and his trip over there. But his letter was full page. Dear Mum, how are you? How are the cats? How's my nana? And he'd actually rang his father from Kelowna and said, I'm going to meet Mum and Stuart in Hong Kong for my 21st.
Oh, really? Okay. So he had even
His
told.
father was working in Saskatchewan at the time.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I
So,
forget
well, that's still kind of, it's not super close. Saskatchewan is,
halfway across.
yeah, like that's not, I just wanted to keep that clear of like his dad wasn't near Kelowna, but so he was just kind of in Kelowna on his own, no family that you had living there. Is that correct?
No, nobody knew apart from the friends he met, the people he made friends with,
Right.
families, and
Well, and he seemed to make friends very quickly.
talk to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he was a pretty,
He didn't
probably
have
a great traveler then, of just being able to, but that can also set you up for
he
trouble
didn't have the
too.
concept of danger. He just, you know, I think it has a lot to do with being hyperactive. His brain just wasn't on the same planet as us,
Yeah.
and just fearless.
Yeah.
Sadly, he
Yeah.
cared about everybody, and you know, cared about animals, and
Hmm.
just, just didn't
Yeah,
understand.
I can
He
see
thought
that.
it
Like
was lovely.
if it's that just kind of outgoing, trusting nature where well, sometimes with ADHD, it feels like if you don't talk, if you don't get things out, whether you write them or you say them out loud, like your brain's just gonna just blow up. So you have to, and so I bet on his trip, he probably dealt with a lot of that, and that's why, he made such fast friends because there's just like he's got to tell people stuff. But it also, I mean, I can remember just impulsivity of too of I'd find myself hitchhiking before I realized that I was hitchhiking, and now I'm getting in a car with a complete stranger, and that's the moment I'm like, this probably wasn't the best idea, but oh well, I'm already doing it. Was Charles a little bit like that?
Oh well, also we didn't realize I hitchhiked across Europe with him to meet his great grandparents in Budapest. I was the only
Mhm.
member of the family that went to see them after the revolution.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and my mum was absolutely a wreck because she was so anxious about us. But obviously, the, the communications weren't what they are now, and you weren't aware, so much of what happens in the world.
Yeah,
Naively do these things.
unfortunately, you're correct. It's very sad. I'm gonna check my notes real quick to make sure we're hitting all of my main points. I tried to be really organized. I even put like little times on there. um, we could do this the right way. Um,
When we got back from our trip to Hungary, My mum said he hugged her so tight.
Aww.
And when we arrived in Hungary, Grandma Tuganini was at the gate. She recognised him. She knew who he was, even though we couldn't speak the language.
Aww. That's so sweet. She just, wow.
It was a replica of his father.
So he looked a lot. Did he look like his dad?
The image.
I just had a
Clone.
few pictures of him, but I was like, wow. Have they ever considered kind of doing an age progression using his father as kind of a guide, since he did look like he looked so much like him?
Diane Trepkoff in Canada, she's done an age progression for us of him.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Amazing. The police haven't. I personally didn't really want one because I know how he looked when we lost him, and that's the only way I can see him.
Right.
You know, he got to 20 years, and I find it a bit eerie seeing the age progression.
I bet.
But it helps. It helps to bring media attention to the case. You know, so some things might not be so pleasant, but it all helps to find it.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing, and you've had to deal with that.
I'm very grateful to Diana Trepkoff. She did so much work.
No,
you know,
that's
with the
sweet.
age progressions.
Yeah. Is there? So like we've kind of in the video. If you guys want to go back and watch the previous video, it is kind of unseen, sight unseen is what I titled it, just because he was supposed to be sightseeing, and then now he's been sight unseen since May of 1989, and we're coming up on very quickly approaching that 33-year mark, and just trying to highlight a few things and shine a light back on this case, and try to see if there's anybody out there that knows something. There wasn't a recent event of the tiny town. In that video, we went over this guy from tiny town, and this is where Charles was camping. And this guy right here, he is no longer living. He has passed away, and that was a pretty recent thing in 2021. And so if you know anything, the numbers should be scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but I see that they're not. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. Wow, that was easy. I'm pleasantly surprised that was easy to do. So we'll kind of review some of that, but before we get into kind of the nitty gritty of it, what were the when was it that you realized that Charles was missing, that something was wrong? Like, what was that day?
Well, we received his letter by fax, as I said, on the 11th of May. And I was expecting a phone call any day afterwards to book tickets. Had we not been arranging to meet in Hong Kong, I wouldn't have been concerned so early. He'd ring, write, or whatever when he chose to.
Right.
And so by the end of May, I was frantic.
You just knew.
I felt something was wrong, and I called the Kelowna detachment of the RCMP to ask them if they see my kid in town. It's a very small town. There was only about 40,000 population at the time. There were 3 main streets to the town, downtown.
Yeah.
and people, even today, that, you know, everybody knows everyone. And I just said, you know, you see my kid in town being hyperactive, you know, if Charles fell over or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, got run over, some calamity happened, you know, it happened to him.
Oh,
And, as you were saying earlier
it
about
sounds familiar.
being hyperactive, and
Yeah.
Sadly, my phone call wasn't well received by the authorities.
So they were just basically like, your son's 20. He doesn't have to call his mommy. Quit
He's
being a
over
pain.
18. If he doesn't want to call his mom, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
They were
Makes you wonder
intimidated.
if they had children of their own and what they would feel like if their child was in the United Kingdom somewhere and they couldn't get a hold of them. I just said that's such a hard one because there's, yeah, it doesn't matter if they, if what he said ended up being correct. It's just so rude. Like, this is a child, this is your child. No matter how old he gets, it's still your child. And you want to know where he is. Just can't.
I continued to be a nuisance
You
and
sure did. I freaking
to the
love it.
family man.
You sure did. You said that you were not going to give a fork about what they were going to not do or do, and you did it yourself. And I applaud you. And I hope that I could be as strong and brave as you. And I know that this is, you had your life before, Charles, like before Charles left for Canada. And then you had the life that was forced upon you, after Charles left for Canada. And like, there's so much that you didn't get to have. And the way that you have carried yourself is so respectable. And I think you're an amazing human. And I just want you to know that. But
My
is
life
there,
ended when I lost my boy.
you what?
My life ended when I lost my boy.
Did you pretty much, was there, because some parents say they know. You said you don't like to look at the age progressions. Do you think that was because you know that your son is forever 20? And was that like an instinctual thing that you had?
I knew something terrible had happened to him that prevented him from calling home.
Yeah.
And I pleaded with the RCMP to help me, begged them, and they were rude, intimidating, and incredibly unkind. And I
Mm,
continued to call them through May, June, July, August. And in August, on August 10th, I insisted they create a missing person file, which they hadn't wanted to do. Yet, in an interview last year,
mm,
the RCMP said he'd been missing since May 26th. And by the time I called in August, it was cold. They didn't even
mm.
read the beginning of the file that I never stopped calling for 3 months. And total opposite, like has happened in the case, interpreting things wrong. And it was so
Wow.
wrong, as if I hadn't cared. They were intimidating to me because they felt I called so premature. As
Mm,
I said, I only got concerned so quickly because I was expecting the phone call to book the tickets. As it happened,
right.
I couldn't book the tickets because we couldn't get economy flights to Hong Kong. So, we would have had to choose somewhere else. Or,
Weird.
But the file 1989 21784 was created on August 10th, 1989. And
Wow.
nearly
But you had
30
been,
years on, I'm still pleading with them. I'm still fighting for justice. I have burned out my body traveling across the world to Canada, across Canada more than once, backtracking his movements in case anything we could find that may give us a clue to what happened to him.
Yeah, you really have.
The end result all happened in Kelowna.
I think so. I have a bunch of slides that I was kind of going to want to go through with you, but I thought, I don't know about you, but I would like to get a drink and to go use the restroom. We're kind of at the halfway point. Is it just a couple minute intermission is what we're going to do. And then I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then if you want to go ahead and if you have anything that you want to do for a couple minutes, um yeah, and then we will come back and I will get those slides pulled up and we'll kind of review some of the different things that have happened along your journey because it really is just phenomenal and sad. It's so we're going to take a little everybody, please go out and share this video while we're on our little intermission. You guys in the chat, I appreciate you all here.
Thank you
And
for joining us.
Chris, he runs Cold Cases, the group that told me about you
Yes.
and has made that connection between me and you. And I'm forever grateful for him. And he's doing a great job. I made him a mod for me today. So we make sure we have extra special and respectful people here. So we're going to take just a few minutes and we will be right back because I have got to go to the restroom. So when we come back, we'll just be kind of going over some of the nitty gritty details and seeing if what we can kind of put it all together and extrapolate from that. So we will be right back. I was quick, but I'm just going to find my files and we will get right back to it. You are 5, Chris. Wow. Yes, he is, Lipsha. And thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Hey, Watchdog. It is. Canada's an absolutely beautiful country. It is absolutely beautiful. And the beautiful Mrs. Horvath-Allan is returning with her glass of water. We will do a toast of waters. Okay, I'm going to go
Chris
and
says
grab
it
my...
was 5.
You
When
what?
Charles disappeared.
No,
Chris,
right? Chris is I like Chris a lot. He's such a good kid.
thank you,
I'm
Chris,
gonna...
for introducing us.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Right? I am so glad that he did too. I really am.
I'm grateful to everyone this evening who's joining us. Well, it's evening here in England, but who joined us today.
I'm gonna pull these up and then I think we can just kind of go through them. I've got a whole Charles file. A whole Charles file. So I gotta share my screen first though. So we'll go over to this view. I thought I'd be able to... Yeah. So we'll just kind of go through these. I think these parts we've kind of already looked at here. This is Charles is missing. Is this an accurate? You've had a lot of trouble with these flyers, haven't you, as far as accuracy? Huh?
I made them.
You did?
Until recent years, I made all these.
Oh, wow.
It was so hard.
Oh, if you ever want me to do that for you, I make these and I enjoy it. It's like art for me. So if you ever want me to make any kind of flyers or...
It would be lovely to have
Yeah, anything that you want made, you let me know what you want it to say, and I would love to do that for you. I enjoy that kind of thing.
This was a night before I left for Canada.
Okay.
The photograph he'd put on the TV, the camera was taken of the two of us. It's his copyright.
Oh, wow. And you have this shirt behind you, I see. Well, one of not, this isn't the original that you have behind you. Is that correct? This is...
Yes, he loved it. We bought it in Leeds. But I think when we bought his suit.
Oh, very sharp dress man.
Oh yeah, he was so funny, because very formal in England, but he'd mix and match, like people do nowadays.
Right.
And roll his sleeves up on his jacket.
And this was in... Yeah, I have those all organized. I just wanted... There was a couple that I wanted to know, is this your artwork here? Is this something that you've made?
No, it's a mistake.
Oh, it's a mistake?
He did art and he did some amazing things, but I don't know how I send that to you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And then I loved this picture of you. You just look just so... And I love the shirts. And is that something that you guys did as like a campaign to raise money? Has this been financially?
I just people on my trip from, I think it was 2016. I forget the exact year, but people donated to help me with the finances to go again. And the shirts I got made in Vancouver, and we sold some.
That's very cool.
This was, the result. And on the back, which you can't see at the moment, but has Gina Foundation.
Oh, okay. Wow. Those are that's really cool. And is that a hand holding a candle in the center
Yes.
there?
Yes.
That's really cool. How much do you think that you've spent thus far?
Everything we got.
Uh,
This one here, the one with the key in the hand. May I explain? Tell you about that one.
oh yes.
Can you see where I'm pointing? There's a hand with a key. It's
Oh yes, yes. This one here.
Charles worked briefly for a gentleman by the name of Vernon Gordon. He was a
Mm-hmm.
carpet fitter in Kelowna, and Charles shared a lot of his dreams and life with Vernon. And this
Aww.
was a picture that I found, and Charles had said, "This is a key to my house."
Aw. He had told
Yeah,
Vernon that.
this is the key to my house. Yes.
But was it really?
Well, that wasn't the key, but
The
he
kid.
may very well have had the key, the house key,
Aw.
in his possession.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
key to
very
my
cool.
house.
Aw. That's so sweet. I love that.
And it was just a picture I found that told it, the story. This is one of the volunteer divers in
Was it?
Kelowna, Richard Cam, who I'm still in touch with, who's been amazing support. And
Mm-hmm.
he was so sad that they never found Charles in the lake.
And this trip was in your March of 1992. Was that your first trip there?
No, the second.
This was your second. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to hurry and get these organized. Um, I had a couple I wanted to highlight and ask you about before I go back to where I was. This is you and Joanne,
Yes,
correct?
and we're on the Fincher Queen. They don't run it anymore, sadly. We went
Okay.
out on the Fincher Queen with my mom and Joanne
Oh,
on Okanagan Lake.
and so you kind of stayed in
My
contact
mom,
with her, is that correct?
we're not in touch very often. Joanne, I
Okay.
think, was overwhelmed with the sadness of Charles. And
Was that it? Were they friends or were they like romantic at all? Did she tell you or?
well, they were good friends. And her and her mom thought a lot about him.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll switch
The
over
favorite one of
to.
my mom with him, next to the one on the
Is
beach.
this your mother here?
Yeah, that's his
Oh my
nana.
gosh. Well, don't you guys look a lot? Oh my gosh, he is so cute. And your mother is so this is Nan. He
Nana,
called her
yeah,
Nan or Nana?
Nana.
Nana. Oh,
She
they're
adored him
they're so
absolutely. And
beautiful.
if anyone ever believed the unkind things the police said, that he
Mm,
didn't love his mum anymore.
no
There's no
way.
way he would hurt his nana in a million years.
No. Oh, she's just absolutely, and I was reading up on some of your journeys because you've just, been there you've gone back so many times looking for your son, and she went with you on those trips. And I mean, she was elderly, and I think one time she, was in a wheelchair, is that correct? And still went to look
No,
for
no,
Charles.
no. She only came once with me. The
Yeah.
first bit. I met her. She came out from England, and we were on a journey the other way around the world. And we flew into Vancouver. And then a week later, my mum flew out from England.
Wow.
But she was still working, though it was hard. She had an
I
extra week of
bet.
work. But she went back when we got to Winnipeg. as I planned to spend 4 nights in each place Charles has stayed and cover
Okay.
the whole of Canada. As it transpired, what we found out in Kelowna and all the leads and people who knew him, etc., we stayed a month in British Columbia. And then I had to try and do the rest of Canada in the few days that I'd got left. As I got to get back home. And my mum came home halfway across. This is a lovely friend in Kelowna who has been there for support for many
Oh,
years.
wow. Did she know Charles? That was one of my
No,
questions I
no,
had.
she just supported
Oh,
research. She now lives on Vancouver Island.
okay. That's so sweet. And this was was this a letter that you had
That's
gotten from Charles?
that's his last letter home.
His
And on the
last letter
bottom,
home.
he puts call Emma for me. Emma was a dear friend of his in Leeds.
Okay. It's kind of blurry, but I can see, dear mom,
His gross
thank you for the
handwriting
money you sent
to Banff.
to Vamp. Yeah. And then
You had a
listed
great time in Singapore. The flight from Vancouver to Hong Kong is about
300.
no, it'll be $3,000.
Oh, wow. I might.
I might be getting a job drilling and blasting. That's it, in between the lines. He's telling me with his father, but he didn't say his father, and they should
Oh,
clear about 3,000 a month.
oh,
It's something
nice.
I hope to get the job, but I didn't want him doing that. But anyway, send me the home fax number to Kelowna General Delivery. Lots of love, Charles. And you
Oh,
can't see it on this, but it puts call Emma for me.
it says what?
You can't see it on this. This is a copy on because different size paper. So
Okay, gotcha.
in US and Canada and England, and it
Yeah.
just call Emma for me. This is
This,
the young lady who came forward 2 years ago to say that she stayed at Tiny Town and some of the events that happened there. The manager would hide youngsters from the police who were underage.
oh,
When the
wow.
police ever went into Tiny Town, she herself was a runaway from home. She had a difficult situation, and she wasn't there when Charles was there, but
Okay,
she knew
gotcha.
the story and what happened to him. She has
But
met the police.
do you think that because they thought because Charles was in Tiny Town that they thought that he was just, is that why they jumped to that conclusion that he was a runaway as well? Because this manager was known for hiding runaways, which
No,
oh,
it
okay.
was. It had tourists, it had residents.
I
Uh,
see, gotcha.
Unofficially, it had youngsters who ran away. Um,
I see, I got you. Okay. And
Gino
then
was
this
a family man who's this is his young son who all
Michael
these
there with the dog.
photographs in the campsite there were Michael's negatives I got printed, and
Oh, wow, okay.
these other two young men were visiting and they all went to the job mart with Charles, the three of them, and
Okay, these
Gina
three
used to
here.
give Charles coffee in the morning and they'd share the laundromat.
Right. So it kind of seems like it's been difficult for you to find, like a registry or like that you can say 100% he was here from. I think that he was registered in Tiny Town on the 8th. Is that correct? And
8th, 9th, and then the 17th to 19th. and the
17th and
manager said
19th.
he owed a week's rent. So um, it, it, he owed until the 26th.
Okay.
Um,
But
this is
he,
the bikers' party, May
yeah,
19th.
they came into town on the 19th, correct? For the stampede.
It was muddled up at first due to the authorities not doing any work on it. Gino
Right.
said it was the week of the Victoria Day weekend, the Falkland Stampede, and all they had to do was check an 89 calendar, which would
Right.
have shown the Victoria Day bank holiday. I'd got a 1990 calendar and whited it out to use as a
Mhm.
calendar, but it didn't reflect the bank holidays on the same day,
Mhm.
with it being a year ahead. And so it caused a great deal of confusion at the time because they thought that the party was on May 26th, but I established that it was May 19th.
Oh, okay. So do
This was
you
the
think
manager when I met him. He was around in his 30s, and this is
this
obviously
Phil
50s,
Flett?
60s. Yeah.
Right,
Uh,
yeah, so this is kind of a picture of him when he was back then. He
and
was
Trent
actually
England was 33ish, and he was had Charles's clothes in his accommodation.
yeah, some of
These two
the
sweaters were taken by.
this was his niece?
Sorry,
Was,
this was the manager's ex-girlfriend.
ah,
She took the two sweaters, and she uh, the police established she had them, and I collected them from her, and she wrote me a letter. I
you had to
forgave her.
collect them from her. Wow,
I forgave her for.
that's
This is a
very
shirt
kind of you.
Trent Egan stole.
Trent Egan, who we saw up here.
Yeah, this is the only photograph I have of him. It's just a circular 2011,
Mhm.
but he was, you know, a close buddy with Phil Flett, the manager. He was the
Ah, I
manager
see.
at Tiny Town, not the owner. This is
Gotcha.
Flett here. People were afraid of him, the youngsters, very afraid. He was a big man.
Yeah. Yeah, even back then, he seemed pretty intimidating, just in his
Yeah,
stature. I watched a video that's actually this photo's from a video that he was in, and it was like, "Oh, wow," I could see where this guy is kinda one of those I
when
don't know
when
how you
when he was asked, what about Charles's things? What about his photographs, his papers? Well, wouldn't you think his mom would want these? Who
Mhm.
would he send them to? There's a transient from Europe. Who would he send them
Yeah,
to? Well, in England, you'd call the police, and after three
exactly,
months, you would be entitled to the possessions. Wouldn't have to steal them. But,
exactly, and
you
you would
know,
do that in Canada too. You
they were
just wouldn't.
known to steal other people's belongings. They were known to threaten people.
Mm.
This is
Is
the
this
only picture we have
Charles?
of Charles.
Is that
Uh,
him in this picture here?
we
This
think so. Um,
Yeah,
that's the only picture we have in Kelowna.
wow, and this was on Friday, May 19th.
Yes.
In tiny tent town, Kelowna, BC, Canada. Um,
We went
wow.
to John Mart earlier in the day, and Charles went with young Michael, collecting bottles to get the money back. And Charles used to play frisbee with young Michael.
So he went back to Job Mart that day on the 19th?
Oh, in the morning, yes. I think Gino went also.
Okay.
Yeah, a few of them probably went. I think the boys in the photograph went that day as well. They were
Okay.
always in John Mart and the Agricultural Employment Centre, seeking work.
And you were talking about these boys here.
Yeah,
Do you
they
know?
were just tourists, the two boys, and they'd
Gotcha.
gone to Job Mart.
And this is actually a photo of
Gordy.
Charles's tent
Oh
that
yes.
Gordy Happ helped him set up, and you had talked to him as well, correct?
Yes, we flew him up from Vancouver to look at the
Wow.
campsite registration list, and he helped identify Gino's name as
Mm-hmm.
Eugene Borden. We couldn't figure it out. But see how
Oh,
tall and well built he is.
yes.
He was afraid of the manager.
Oh, really? He said
The
that.
manager
Wow.
sent him.
And when did
And
you meet him? Okay, so let's kind of back up like you. So you report him missing and they finally take it seriously come 3 months later in August. Um and then when is your subsequent trip? When was your first trip to Canada and kind of like what
it was
happened like
July 1990. Uh,
1990? Okay.
yeah,
And
uh,
what were you
maybe
able to do? Was that which trip was that as far as
was
like what
trip.
happened?
The first trip.
Yeah, like what Bill, because I have all of these images and I have videos, but I don't really know what year they were in. So I was kind of hoping we could kind of clear up
So,
some of that.
um,
You went to
well,
Tiny Town the first trip?
yes, yes.
Okay.
On the first trip, after 1.5 days of being in Kelowna, we established that he'd been camping at Tiny Town. And ironically, it was
Mm.
directly across the street from the Pandosi Inn where my mum and I were staying.
And you
Um,
were able to do that in 1.5 days?
yeah.
And they,
I planned my trip, though. I placed my ads in the newspapers. You know, Joanne's mom, Chris the Bruff, had seen my ad. She recognized Charles's name, Karoly John Horvath, but she didn't recognize the photograph with the beard.
wow.
And that's how Joanne saw it. And she wrote out her memories and took the note down to the police station. And that was faxed to England and then on to Hong Kong, where we were on business. So I had that before we arrived in Kelowna. But I'd
Hmm.
already placed my ads, you know, before we left England. There's a lot of
Wow.
preparation needed doing. You know, we weren't going on a package holiday.
Right. So you came prepared. You were ready to go. You hit the
Well,
ground running.
I was
And
ill prepared when I got there,
well, I'm sure, but you
but
thought to do that. I would have never thought to do that. So
you
I
had to
think
sleep
that's
somewhere, so you
yeah.
needed that. But what I didn't have was an office situation with a phone that reached a desk or a worktop. I had to buy extension leads for the phone in the motel room and pen and paper,
Wow.
you know, and so much. I used to have a mobile office. We'd go
You
sit in a cafe and have lunch, and I'd do my cut and pasting of news
wow.
articles next door in the photocopy shop and leave whoever I was with, you know, in the cafe and
To go and
a mobile office. The lady
wow.
in Rouge Stationers, where he sent his fax on the 11th of May 11th,
Mm-hmm.
she remembers him fondly.
Aw, where he
God,
says he
we used to see on my, you know, on the few trips I made there, if he was in Kelowna, he'd come visit. I,
yeah.
I found him in outside Vancouver. I
Wow.
found his mom, and that's how I've located Gordy.
Wow. See that's the thing is like your steadfastness in just a short amount of time was able to produce more than they had in a almost a full year. Um,
It was hard.
and
You
then, 1.5 day on the ground, and you've already established that he was in Tiny Town. Then you later just established that the date
I
of
meet
that
Trent Egan,
and
the
Trent Egan
director.
and
I
the
meet him, and he's so uncomfortable talking to me. Well, he wouldn't talk to me. He kept saying, "You have to wait till the manager comes back. You have to wait till the manager comes back." That's all he could
mm,
say.
And he didn't say, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Allen. We shared his things out. I've got some of his things in, my accommodation, and give them
Didn't
back and apologize."
wow.
But the following day, when the police went in with the sirens blaring, we could hear them in our motel room.
Mhm.
Trent Egan gave up the 2 shirts and the shaving bag. Charles kept his photographs in the shaving bag, his personal papers, ID, and they'd
Right.
admitted to rummaging through it. And one of them believed that his UK passport was in there. But you see, they weren't worldly, so they didn't know what a passport would look like.
Look, okay.
Ironically, it turned out it was an Alberta tourist passport that he got coming through
Oh, so
Banff National Park. That was
hmm.
what was in there.
But not his like he didn't have a standard like driver's license, correct?
But he had his birth certificate in
He had
there.
his birth certificate. Was that in the bag or
Well, I don't know, but he had his
that
ID in there, we were told. And these 3 small items,
is all they had left?
when the manager came back, he said he remembered Charles, and he went and got these 3 tiny items from the shed. Rosaries his godfather gave him, and a little tiny Bible that the outreach centre gave him. And this is the leather strap off his boot, which I'll never comprehend why the manager would keep that, or how they came to have a strap off his boot. One can imagine him being dragged across the campground on the gravel and the strap coming off.
Yeah.
I don't know, only those who were there know.
Did you recognize this boot though? Like
Sorry?
you knew this boot was Charles's, like it was distinct enough that you knew it was his?
Oh, no, I didn't know. But when Anna said in the rimrock that his boots could hear the heels clicking down the hallway, I assumed this was the strap off what, like a cowboy boot that Charles had purchased himself. I tracked down the store where he bought the sweater in Banff with the sailboat. And the other sweater, this one, he'll have bought this because he has an axe on it. I never saw these until I got to Canada, obviously.
Okay.
They're in the police evidence file now.
They are. Okay. And when did you receive this letter?
This is on my second trip.
This is your second. These are all 3 on your second trip here?
Two. There were 2 here.
Oh, okay.
I planned to spend a month in Kelowna. I had sufficient funds for just that, to follow on from what we'd learned. And add in the paper, which is the only way I could communicate with people there.
Right. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Is everybody else able to hear her okay?
Sorry. It may
Hi, Unroyal. Thanks for coming by. There's kind of a delay on the chat too, so I was kind of waiting to see make sure you didn't have to repeat yourself if they're having trouble hearing you too. Shanda says, why would you take possessions that didn't belong to you, especially if someone were to come back for it? There is something suspicious there in Tiny Tent Town, and I agree, Shanda. I agree. And so on your second trip is so the first trip you kind of establish the timeline of like where Charles was in Kelowna. Okay, yep. And then Tiny Tent Town, were you the one that came up with the information on Flintstones and him have worked there for a half a day, or?
The police found that out. He'd been working at Flintstones.
Okay, was that something?
Sorry.
Well, I know that you say that you guys had a shared bank account, and I just wondered if you were able to, did you have a return check from the bank here as well?
Well, no, because he would have just signed the paycheck and they would have cashed it in the bank. He wouldn't have paid it into the account, and
Oh,
then
I
drawn it
see.
out like you have to do nowadays.
So
You used to be able to countersign the back of a check.
yeah. So
And
the
because
check in
in a
Swift
small
Current?
town, they probably, you know, Flintstones may have had an account there, so they
I
wouldn't have
see.
a problem cashing the check.
Got you.
Very
And so
different long ago. I
but this
worked for Bank of Nova Scotia,
I
and everything was much more relaxed.
gotcha. But the one in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, he actually put that check in the bank, and that's why you have a record of it?
No, he wrote the check on our account. The teller wrote his social insurance number on the back
Okay.
and gave him the money. As I said
Gotcha.
earlier, in those days, when checks had gone through your account, they were sent back to you at home.
Right, yeah. I was
Nowadays,
just
they
trying to
do
establish the difference of the two. So this is why you don't have a record of this one, because it was a check from Flintstones that he just
yes,
cashed at the bank, to where
yes,
the other one was a check that he had
personal.
written, yeah,
Yeah,
and then cashed a personal check. So
yeah.
that
And
I see. That makes sense.
I went to visit Swift Current, the bank, and the teller remembered him
Yeah,
fondly.
you had told me that and that just shows Charles's character of like just making an impression on everybody that he met. And
Beautiful smile.
oh, absolutely. And eyes, his eyes are just gorgeous. Very
So
handsome
romantic.
man. And
And
so, do you know if there is what kind of proof the RCMP have of this Flintstones and cashing the check on the 26th of May?
I think Myrtle Radke, who was the owner of Flintstones, I think she provided the police with this confirmation. I
Hmm.
visited with her at a later
Okay.
date, and she wrote a letter giving me authorizing me to have the original application form from the
Hmm.
police that Charles had. The police had said how easy it would be to change his name, etc., etc. But on his application at JobMart at Flintstones, it was Karoly John Horvath because that was his social insurance number, the name
Right.
on the card. But everyone knew he was Charles, but his legal
Exactly.
name would were on all the things. Charles wasn't really streetwise, and he didn't have the funds to be able to change his identity, and also he didn't have a legal passport. I know you can get them illegally, supposedly, but they're very expensive, and
Yeah,
it would be just as easy for him to apply for a replacement,
true.
but you need
Yeah.
the money for the fee.
Well, and I mean, I had mentioned this in my video is he was like there were things that he talked about that were in his near future in coming in August. And that isn't indicative of a person that is wanting to hide forever and run away from their mother. Like they're trying to, like their campaign was to basically seem to discredit everything that you were saying, and that's why I was frustrated for you on when I watched Unsolved Mysteries, because they came in at the end and RCMP said, no, we talked to some family in Canada and they said that he didn't want to be found. And it was just like seemed like such a cop out, and they kind of took what Joanne was saying and kind of twisted it. But really from the 19th, like I struggle with knowing how much of the information from RCMP in 1989 to 92 we can trust. So like, is there outside sources for Flintstones and him cashing this check? Because he disappeared from everywhere else. His friend Gino saw him on the 19th, and have spoken with Gino and Michael, and you've spoken with Joanne, and no one else has seen him past that. And so it's just, I would want to prove that 100% as much as possible. that he actually did go there on the 26th because he
He
isn't.
worked half a day there, and he told a colleague at work that it was physically too hard for him because it was manual labor with the stones, and he said it would be easier digging turf, which he'd done irrigation work at the Tanis Orchid, that, you know, working for them. He was very strong and fit, and he wasn't lazy, but maybe because he wasn't eating properly, he didn't have the physical energy to do what was required, at Flintstones. A huge theme
Or what if
park.
it wasn't him? Is
No,
it?
no,
It was
because
definitely
he
him.
talked to this young man.
Okay, so you know for sure that he did
And
work
I
there on the
met with him,
26th.
and he
Okay,
shared
gotcha.
some memories of Charles, and I knew it was it.
Awesome. Okay, gotcha. So those things are correct then, like, but we just don't know where he spent the night as
No,
far as
we
the.
somebody came forward who believed they gave him a ride into town, and then after that, we don't know where he
But
slept.
they
Where he,
say that past the 19th, he did not come back to. He just left all of his stuff and he never came back to Tiny Town past the 19th.
so they say, or we
Okay.
surmise. It's a year after the event, and some of them, have got difficult recording
Right.
exactly. It's only me getting a calendar and backtracking dates. I mean, the police couldn't even get the May 26th date right. It was
Mhm.
May 19th.
Right. This was that
The officer who has been disgraced on Unsolved Mysteries, he actually threatened myself and my husband. And he said if any of the photographs of the bikers' party get into the UK media, Charles's file will be put on the back burner forever.
what?
Oh, yes.
If any of the bikers make
He
it
said,
into the media.
he said if any of the photographs of the bikers' party at Tiny Town got into the UK media, Charles's file would be put on the back burner forever. And my
That's
husband is
disgusting.
3, so he's not, he's quite an intimidating character. And this homicide officer threatened the parents. I was
That's
banging on the door
disgusting.
of the Kelowna Courier office, is banging on the window to open up to stop them putting the photographs down the line.
Mm. Wow. And I have a subscription to newspapers.com, and so I was able to put in a few like tag words of, the rodeo stampede. And I pulled up a bunch of articles that talk. It was a bunch of political kind of articles that kind of seems to be matching with what you're telling me right now of this stampede in Falkland, like Kamloops, Verona, for Kelowna. This is one of the biggest money-making events that they have, like, one of them, like, literally brings in one paper was talking about the amount of money that is brought in by outside sources into this town of Falkland, and it was literally a fourth of the amount that is brought in by this stampede. And then all of the other towns surrounding actually benefit from all of the people that come to these events, and I can't help but think that it was more about money of, like, why he said that to you, because some of these articles were like, one was, "Oh, we had no problems whatsoever. There was no unruly crowds. There was nothing got out of hand at the Falkland Stampede." in 1989. I found a paper about it in 1989. And then when you go, I found another article that completely contradicts it and is talking about vandalism, carjackings, rape, just on down the list, just wreaking havoc from Kelowna all the way to Verona, then over to Falkland, and then even in Camp Loops during when all of these people come into town for this rodeo. But the articles and the town is like fighting over this whole thing, and it seems to be all around money, and it just makes me wonder if that's why the RCMP said that, and like why they didn't want him to be missing from Tiny Town on the 19th because those bikers were in town from the United States. 75 of them.
They were booked into the campsite to overnight in a little campsite.
75 of them, just
with the huge trikes.
Right. And they were definitely from the United States. Is that correct?
So I understand.
Okay. I was trying to do a little bit of, I searched and found all of that. I found the old rodeo, like circuit schedules and everything. So just kind of established, and I'm trying to find, where the bikers would have traveled and where they might have all been from as far as the United States here. But it was definitely a big deal. If Charles was alive on the 26th, then the bikers are really kind of a moot point, because they were unless they came back into town. So the stampede was from the 20th to the 22nd, and maybe they came back into Kelowna afterward. Do we know, or anything like that?
I don't know.
Yeah. But it definitely seems like, so you have in Tiny Town here, you have this Kevin, you have Phil, and then you have Sheila acting very suspicious. Because it seems like his stuff was divided up amongst them. Kevin, Egan, Trent, he took this shirt and these things. She took these nice, and if you look at these shirts, they could be unisex. Okay. And then when you look at like this shirt, you definitely see like this is a man shirt. And this just so happens to be the one that they found on Kevin, if you're following me here. And then you've got this, a rosary, a Bible. Who's going to want to, if something nefarious did happen to Charles, and these three were kind of the main players in it, you have, who's going to want to take a rosary and a Bible? And then a bootstrap. Is that like, just so these three tiny little things of a man that was hiking across Canada. He had a tent. He had a tarp, the orange tarp to go on top of his tent. He had his clothes. He had a bag. He had his important papers, a shaving and things that he used to get ready. I'm sure he had a sleeping bag. Yes. Where it just seems to me they divided it all up, and then these were the things that were just so little that they lost them, and he just so happened to find them in his. I'm sure he has more, like, is that a theory that kind of makes logical sense to you as you go through this?
I just think it's very strange why someone would keep these three little items in the shed.
Yeah.
It's eerie.
It is.
He did say they packed up all his stuff and put it in the shed and threw it out in the spring. But we know that others took his clothing So what part of packing up his stuff and putting in the shed is true? Who knows? And, you know, I don't think somebody in the right mind would throw away a youngster's ID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least that could have been the shaving bag with all the papers could have been turned over.
And you
Yeah,
never got those pictures, those important pictures back. You've never seen any of those things.
I know what they are because I sent him a copy from Montreal,
Right.
and Joanne, he was busily showing them to Joanne. He's showing off. And he used to tell Joanne where he'd travelled. He'd been to Egypt and various places. And they used to think he was romancing. And she said it wasn't until his mom got there that they found out it was all true.
Wow. Did you, when you talked to, say, Gordy Hack and Mr. Gino, what was their feeling on the owner and Kevin and the girlfriend? Like, did they meet them? Did they have any interactions? Were they intimidated by?
Gordy had a confrontation with Phil Fleck, the manager.
Wow.
Who threatened him. Gino was a full-time resident there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Gordy was just a tourist.
Oh, but he wasn't with the U.S. bikers, correct?
Oh, no. He wasn't there the night of the party. He'd gone on his travels.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is too, okay, so you say that he got the Bible from the Gospel Mission. The Rosary is something that
outreach.
Is the what?
It's an outreach center.
Yeah. The Gospel Mission place, is that what you're talking about?
No, it was in, I can't remember the name of the street. It was another place.
Yeah, okay, but it was still something that he had gotten in Canada along with
in Kelowna.
Okay.
It was on Richter, the outreach place.
Gotcha. And then the Rosary, were you able to confirm with his godfather, Gabby, that he had given him this Rosary?
Yes.
Okay. And then the bootstrap, it seems like there's a K on there. I don't know if that's just a coincidence. I had meant to ask you about that because I thought maybe it was, like a personalized, because I know you called him KJ, but
I do that for typing purposes.
Yeah.
But we didn't call him KJ. It was Charles or Karoly.
And then there was, I'll go ahead and read this little part here. So the RCMP said that Deanna told them that Charles wanted to get away from his family. When Denise met Deanna, she asked her if Charles had said this. Her response was absolutely not. And at this time, Deanna told Denise that she had given Charles some work boots. Do you think that the strap was from the work boots that she had given him, or?
No, the work boots are things that you tie with laces, big suede sandy things that builders wear.
Gotcha. Okay.
The boots were what he had in Banff with the heels clicking down the hallway.
I see. Okay. So I just wanted to make, because that was in the video, and I just wanted to make sure we cleared that up, that like these are two different pair of boots. So there's probably more than two missing shoes. He could be within his possession. He could have on a black, more dress heel type boot. He could have a pair of work boots. If these are things that someone were to come across or that are found somewhere, or have been found and turned in, say they are with another missing or an unidentified person. I know this is tough to talk about, but with all that RCMP has kind of not done, it leads one to wonder. I have been following a Canadian phenomenon, if you want to call that. I don't think I call it that. I think I find it very suspicious, but for 4 or 5 years now of foots. I know it's a horrible thing to talk about, but it seems like nobody takes it seriously that in waterways leading from this particular part of Canada, the Okanagan here, that ends up kind of draining out. Now they have dams built in here. And then in this area here of Victoria and Everett, in Seattle even, just singular disarticulated foots are showing up. And there are a lot of missing and unidentified remains. And I'm just going to be real honest. Canada is not very good with putting in missing people, of helping with identify. Some of these unidentified remains have been in there for years and years and years, and it just seems like, what if Charles is just, he is in their possession? Maybe it's even in the United States a little bit, just because of the Okanagan Lake here and the way that it does drain. And they just haven't identified his remains because they didn't look for them, or they didn't have his DNA until, was that 2013 or 14 that you told me?
2014, they first took my DNA.
Wow.
15 years anniversary. And you asked about the details on the Canadian database. That I had to fight for. Maybe 20 years it took for me to get them to put Charles's details on there.
Are you serious?
And they're not accurate. Charles
no,
had
they're
dark
not.
brown hair, dark brown eyes. He didn't, and a dark skin. He didn't have what they say, black hair. And he didn't have a light. I've got a light complexion. Charles had what in England we say Mediterranean. His father had a dark complexion. His aunt did. His grandma was fair like me. Where they got the fair complexion from, I have no idea. But I fought and fought for them to put, because they don't put people on that database easily.
Yeah.
And to put it on with errors.
That's so sad. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I advise the police they've got errors, but nobody bothers to update them with the correct. I know the coroner was going to go dig up his father's remains to get DNA at one point. And I was mortified, absolutely mortified. Because I didn't know at that point that Max had died. And I said, he was here in your office in 2010. He could have taken his DNA with him, physically.
Right.
Now he's going to go dig up his grave.
Wow.
It's so traumatic. It was horrible.
That is. So they didn't end up getting Charles's dad's DNA, I take it?
He was cremated.
Wow. What about his son?
Well,
he hasn't half-brother.
I haven't asked him. Charles only met his son one day. I'm in touch with him, and it's a very awkward area. He was a young boy when Charles met him. Charles was 20.
Right.
He was out on his skateboard, and it just, he got married, and his wife has kept in touch, and she can't believe how the cousins look alike. You know, the Horvath genes are so strong. And
wow.
And even now, the baby cousin, you couldn't distinguish whether it was Charles or Garrett.
That's crazy.
The pictures are so identical.
Yeah.
His mom was shocked, you know, how they look so much alike.
Aw. Do you think that his half brother would be willing to give a DNA sample to the coroner's office?
There's no reason not to. It'd be up to the authorities to approach him asking. I can't ask him. It's not my place.
Okay.
And, you know, then how do I then get the DNA to the authorities? It needs to be
They need to do it
professionally.
Well, I would think that I'm just writing this down so I don't forget it. I would think that the coroner would be able to ask him, like he was going to dig up, if he was willing, you know, to ask to do that for Max, then why in the world is he not willing to? Because he's still, like, his brother is going to share half of his, you know, well, of not half, since it's a half brother, but they would still be able to identify him initially with yours and his half brother's DNA, because they still share Max. Does that make sense? So to have his half brother's DNA in their database I think that would be a good thing to get done, and surely they could do that for you.
The coroner has probably retired, the one who was going to, you know, it's some years ago now. He died. Max died in 2007. It's quite a while now.
Yeah.
I can't remember what year I found out. Maybe 2010 when I was there, because I was with Corporal Lisa Cullen when we established that he'd died.
Okay.
I wondered why he hadn't called me, because, you know, he used to call, and he had a hearing impairment, me, and so he used to shout. And I thought, and of course, he'd get the timing wrong, so he'd call here in the middle of the night, and, you know, my husband would be asleep, and he'd be yelling down the phone, and, you know, it was really awkward in the middle of the night. And I thought, it's strange, he's not rung in a while. And of course, he died.
Max?
Pardon?
Are you talking about Max?
Yes.
Did he happen to die by the hands of a serial, like, murderer in Thunder Bay? I had found that name, Arpad.
He had a heart attack in Mississauga outside Toronto.
Yeah, there was a
while he was working.
While he was working, so he wasn't in like a nursing home.
No, he was driving a truck.
Gotcha. Okay.
He had a heart attack. I went to the rest area, you know, the cafe restaurant where the truck was parked. Spoke to the owner because they called the ambulance.
Oh wow.
The owners of the restaurant.
Oh, it was I kept getting confused on some of those things early, because to me, Karoly, John, you know, Horvath, Arpad or Arfad, how you say that word? The names you were giving me are very different. And then you had said that they were originally from Hungary, and so being Hungarian and having the name Karoly and the name Horvath and the name Arpad, I was thinking, you know, like, I have definitely found his family there in Canada, and then come to find out, like, none of the information that I had gone through in the obituaries was even the right ones, because there was two Arpad Horvath in Canada.
In
it Hungary? Okay. That makes sense. See, that's why those cultural things are important to know when you're looking into things. When you have, like in Canada, I'm sure, like to know that that is just a common name would have saved me about 4 hours of time because
Yeah,
I went down a whole rabbit trail of like, oh my gosh, like this poor Charles is like his dad was killed as well by someone, and like this is just so crazy. But it was a different Arpad Horvath. Okay, so sorry, back on track. But it was a angel of death, basically, and
yeah,
that had killed another man named Arpad. So the thing to ask the coroner was about the half sibling. And then whomever, do you know if I had one more question about the coroner? Were they located in Kelowna, or would that have been the Okanagan coroner's office? There was like an Okanagan um, district of something,
well,
almost
it's
like it might have encompassed a Kelowna, maybe Kamloops, Verona, all of those kind of were all included in one coroner's office, or do you know
I
if it
think so. The
okay.
coroner is downtown Kelowna,
Okay, gotcha.
his office. The Okanagan Valley is very extensive. Um, I'm not sure
Yeah.
how far afield you know, his job would take him, but Vernon is an hour away, uh,
Okay. Well,
which it must have its own municipality and its
gotcha.
own, I
Gotcha.
would
That's
think.
kind of what I was wondering
And
too.
Kamloops is like 3 hours drive away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. It just seemed like they were such small little towns and very secluded. It kind of it makes me wonder if that's a lot of the problem with their systems as far as databases go, and America's not that much farther behind as far as getting national databases with this information and being able to actually take unidentified from different towns and putting them into a database with their DNA, and that way you can do comparisons. It doesn't seem like they have anything like that yet,
they're very
which
limited.
which
They,
means that you have to do it on a one-to-one comparison. So you have to basically, okay, well, I found this, and then call them and say, can you compare Charles's DNA to this unidentified remains that were found, da 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 on the state. But it doesn't seem like they have anything that automatically would generate a match, is what I'm trying to get at. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I,
Okay. So that's
I
something to
know,
ask the coroner.
I do know in 1989 the RCMP didn't have a fax machine.
What? No fax machine
No.
in 89. Okay. Okay. Um, all right.
You see,
I
things change so much.
Yeah,
People
but
don't
that's very
realize. No
but
cell phones. I mean, they were this size, uh,
well,
you know,
yeah.
the size
Yeah,
of a
but
brick
fax
in
machines
89.
were pretty um I'm trying to think of like weren't they pretty standard in 1989, a fax machine?
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's just like what you're saying is they were even farther behind than the times.
yeah,
And I didn't know if you had seen Lance's question
yes,
here.
yeah,
Is he someone that you know?
yes. I'm in touch with Lance. Um,
Okay. How do you think you met him, Lance? And then was there anything about and then your second trip when you went there, and that was in 1992, is that correct?
yes,
And then that was when the divers um
located
from
a body.
Right. And you had gotten the notes.
Yeah, 2 anonymous notes indicating that he died in a fight at Tiny Town, and they dumped his body in the lake. Subsequently, volunteer Kelowna divers went in for 3 days to search for him. They were then joined by the Vancouver-based International Sea Search and their volunteer team, and they went in for a further 3 days. And on the 6th day, International Sea Search located a body.
Wow.
They called the police at 10:14 to advise them of the find. The police had actually joined the search on the 5th day of the search, the day before, but they weren't present on the 6th. It took them 3 minutes to get there, to the lakeside.
Did they have a lot going on? Were they just like so overwrought with crime that week, or what?
Charles wasn't on the top of their list.
Yeah.
I don't know why they weren't present. Why they weren't there on the 6th. But however, it only took 3 minutes to get there. And the team had asked me to stay away from the lakeside because it was difficult for them looking for Charles. I did what they asked. And of course, when all this commotion happened, I was unaware. And it wasn't until about 2:20 that the disgraced homicide officer and his colleague came to see me at the motel to tell me that they'd found a body. And I could see in the young officer's eyes that he believed it was Charles. Which was quite a shock.
I bet. But it wasn't Charles.
Well, they gave a press conference and told the world that it was all down to me, and because of my efforts, Charles had been found.
Right.
But when the remains went to Vancouver on Monday, it was established that it wasn't him through the dental records. And the following Thursday, they established it was a senior gentleman, possible suicide, from Kelowna.
Wow.
After, when the police came to see me at the motel, it was very difficult. They didn't bring a female officer with them, and I was quite upset, but I didn't do anything to warrant their actions. But the next thing I know, I'm being manhandled into an ambulance and taken away to the hospital. They strapped me in, took my cell phones from me, and were shouting at me. And I said, I'm not deaf. And I was asking where the manageress was of the motel, because she had put a wing out and her husband looked after me. And I was taken and left in the emergency unit. They didn't allow me to get my dressing gown or toiletries, nothing. I was formally dressed, laid on a trolley asleep. I'd had 3 hours sleep a night for 6 weeks. And the manageress came with my overnight things, and a nurse came while I was on the trolley, and she said, would I like to go upstairs? It'd be quiet up there. They were apparently on strike downstairs. And I didn't want to be a nuisance. I just needed to go to sleep where I was safe. I was so frightened by this time. And I agreed to go upstairs. Unbeknown to me, it was a psychiatric unit.
No.
And they put me in a room that was like a concrete cell. And while I was asleep, they allowed funeral directors to leave their cards and people to leave peanut butter cookies. I've never felt
Oh my God. And you woke up to that.
my privacy invaded so much to be asleep.
That
And when Charles's friend, Vernon Gordon, came to take me home for supper and do my laundry, they said I had to be back by 6. And I knew then
what?
They'd section me if I didn't do as I was told. In those days, you needed $7 in quarters to phone England, and it had to be in the middle of the night.
What?
And I made sure I was back in time. And when I came back, the nurse shouted at me about something. And I thought, I've already filled in the forms 3 times, insurance forms. And as I was walking, she shouted across an office into the hallway that the coroner was coming to see me. I said, what? And I went to the floor. I was left to pick myself up and go to my room. The coroner came around 11:20 at night to take the details to enable him to complete a death certificate for the body of my child before it was identified. And I asked him, how did they know it was Charles? But we're sure it's Charles. Has it been identified? No, but we're sure it's him. And he was referring to the cranial joint. And I thought, what are you talking about? He has a man's skull, not a baby where you have the opening, a newborn. I don't understand what he's talking about. And I said to him, where is this body? I want to see it. I said, I watched him grow. I know his physique. I didn't know if I actually wanted to look at the flesh. I know some friends who had lost their daughter. They are allowed to see her with a sheet over her, because once they come out of storage, apparently you disintegrate.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I've tried to program my brain what the flesh would look like, and if I ever want to see it or not. Anyway, it transpires. It's in the morgue downstairs from me.
No
priority on getting it ID'd. They could have done it Friday afternoon. Could have gone to Vancouver. And it went to Vancouver Monday morning at 6. And in the end, I gave the coroner the information, but I felt that I betrayed Charles because I hadn't had him in my arms. Anyway, the next morning, I ensured that I got out of there. Because they had me in there illegally.
Yeah.
I refused to see a psychiatrist. They had to get a GP to look after me while I was in there. Because it was a weekend, a Scottish doctor, took charge. And he came to see me Monday morning as I'm going home now. And, of course. So, I was allowed to walk out the doors and go back to the motel. It was the most horrifying experience one couldn't imagine.
I can't.
It did more damage to my brain being locked up by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police than losing my child. And when I tried to tell people after, they didn't believe me. They thought I was crazy. But it's in a book now. It's in Unsolved Murders of Canada, written by Lisa Waldner, published in 2009. And she explains what happened far better than I. But, what happened to me. And I think it's possible that the ambulance was waiting outside the motel when the police came. all around the same time. You know, we realized they wanted to keep me away from the media. I should have been at a press conference.
Yeah. Wow.
But instead I was locked in a mental unit. And after I got home to the motel, the coroner came at 5:25 with a press release. It's not the body of Karoly John Horvath. And all the posters were taken down, you know, that I'd created at huge expense. And
Wow.
people thought, oh, he's been found, because somebody who actually I can't remember the circumstances, but a young man who'd seen Charles in a downtown bistro, he thought that the body had been found, and he finally contacted me, and we met on another trip. You know, of course, when he realised he hadn't been found, because I was back. The damage it did to the search was huge, and the international newspapers, and my grandma was alive at the time. My mum read search over body pulled from the lake, worldwide papers.
And so therefore
all unnecessary pain for the family who's belonging to the person that was found, and of course to my family.
Yeah. Without I just like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. It seems very calculated what they did.
Being manhandled into an ambulance with huge men, and then they strapped me in, and they ripped my cell phone from my hand and returned them to the rental company. So I was in the hospital without a phone to call my husband. I had to have the $7 and go to the payphone in the middle of the night to contact home. It was evil.
It's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. You know, and I'm sure that's probably created a PTSD.
Sorry?
Like a post-traumatic stress that, you know, when you think about it, you're reliving it, and it's obvious that it's the truth by your response.
They made me public enemy number one.
They really did.
Because I wouldn't give up.
That's what I was.
Outside the hospital, the late Reverend Baldeo, who performed the service for him on the 7th anniversary, and his wife, Beryl, he was outside my room. I was upstairs, and he was praying for me and Charles. And they've been the kindest people, and the congregation and people in Kelowna. Supporting what I've been through.
Yeah. It's just it really just seems like, okay, so here you have you know, a tourist going missing from somewhere where they want that to go away, and you just refused. And so they had you committed for it.
That for beautiful British Columbia tourism.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, but you know, you're talking about a place that doesn't get much revenue except for a few certain times of the year, you know, and they immediately come on and say that the remains found were Charles's, without, like, they never even said, we believe it is alleged, like, we are looking into it. They just said, these are Charles's remains. His mother can She's finally got the answers that she needs. Point blank, period. That's the end. And then if it was not for you and your steadfastness, that would be the story that everyone assumed Charles was found that day. And it seems like that's what they wanted. They just want, because there are things about, okay, so this was in 1992, correct?
Yes, 3rd of April, 1992.
And they suspect that Charles had disappeared in May of 1989.
Yes.
89, 90, 91, 92. That's almost 4 years.
3.
It was 3 years. Okay, sorry. I'm terrible with math. 3 years. This person, this other man, was found in a lake, a body of water.
98 miles.
They should have known that wasn't Charles the moment the coroner looked at him, if they truly believed he died in 89.
Well, the head owner of International Sea Search, I met with him in Vancouver to thank him, and he said it was obviously not your boy.
Exactly.
It was a big man, and it still had some hospital clothing attached to him, and he said it had blood in the heart and urine in the bladder. There was no skin on the face because it was found face down. But
Right.
he said it was a big man, definitely not your boy. That was
They
a
knew
shock.
that. Yeah.
And when they described what the person was wearing, I said, my granddad would wear those type of clothing.
Right.
My son wouldn't. He'd be half naked, with a pair of briefs and black jeans and a little black t-shirt,
Right.
the minimal dress of a youngster. They don't go around wearing hush puppies and corduroy trousers and cardigans. Right. But I said, they've been cold and maybe somebody redressed him. Your brain goes and wonders what, because it was such a coincidence in a 98-mile wide lake that my two volunteer teams located the gentleman.
Wow. And so you were the ones that helped figure out who he really was? Is that, or did I misunderstand? Okay.
Identity records.
Gotcha.
Forensic dealt with that.
Wow. And so, I just had a couple more questions for you, and then anything you want to add. So the thing that I noticed was, okay, so you get these letters, let me just go ahead and share my screen so everybody can kind of see what I'm talking about here. You get these letters here. Dear Mrs. Allan, I seen your ad in the paper looking for your son. I seen him in tiny tent town, May 26th. We were partying and 2 people knocked him out, but he died. His body is in the lake by the bridge. Dear Mrs. Allan. And then it says, where you were staying. And then you receive a subsequent note that says, Mrs. Allan, you're diving on the wrong side of the lake. Okay, so this is a person that is very intent, and you don't know who this is, correct? This person, that the anonymous note taker, do you know who that is?
I'm sorry.
Do you know who wrote you those notes? Did they ever come forward with their ID? No. Okay. So they were so specific about, and then guess what? This is the bridge here we're talking about. North is at the top of the screen. which side of the lake here was were they searching in the beginning?
I'm
Can
not
you
sure.
tell?
I think with this side, the south side, Tiny Town side,
Okay.
South Andosi side,
So
because
they
I think
were searching on Tiny Town side over
yes,
here. And the
but
guy said, wrong side of the lake, come
the
over here.
bridge, and they moved over. The team
Yeah.
moved over to the other side,
And then they
which is
find a body.
the downtown side. Yeah.
It just kind of makes me wonder if that guy, like, was that a real tip at all? Just because of the speed of how everything unfolded. Like, they finally show up, RCMP does. They have this ambulance there. Then they whisk you off. They announce it really quickly. And then they don't have you at the press conference. You're kind of hidden away. And then it was obvious to people from the outside that this was not Charles, but they didn't really want that to come out. And they weren't even sending his body to be positively identified until they didn't. Would they have done that if you had not insisted? Like, would this poor man have just gone down in the books as Charles, and if you hadn't asked more questions?
Well, it worried me. I asked my husband to bring a forensic person with him from England because I wanted to know that if this body I was taking home belonged to me. I was so confused with all the events.
I'm so sorry. That's so what it just seemed kind of intentional with the note, and maybe if you kind of have to question okay, they did find a body, so but yet that wasn't Charles, does calls into question like the whole letter. Do you really think that the fight even occurred? Do you think the guy they just found it was
I,
just like a coincidence, or
I think just an unreal coincidence. And,
wow.
who knows if Charles didn't go back on the 26th, it, you know, it, the fight may have happened, nothing to do with the bikers party.
I would say that
Only,
it didn't,
only,
because
only those who were present can answer.
yeah, I can't see, they seemed the bikers party was very deliberate. They had a place to be, and it was in Falkland. So they would have needed to come up, they're staying here in Tiny Town, and they would come up over this bridge, and then basically they would just, travel all the way. They were headed over, where is it? Here.
To
They were
Falkland.
headed to here, from here. And so they would have been, say they were here on the 19th and they stayed here in Kelowna, then they would have immediately been needing to get over here to Falkland by the 20th, because that's when the rodeo started. And a lot of them, I would assume, were actually the rodeoers, like they were the cowboys. And so it's over on the 22nd. And then they also have like awards and things, like they give out their stuff. So let's just say that they made it back through like the 23rd. Rodeoers aren't on vacation. Like they go to a rodeo to rodeo, and then they go back home on circuits like this, or they go to the next circuit. There is another circuit in Vernon. This is what they're called, is like rodeo circuits. And so they just literally travel around to each next one. But this one in Falkland is also like a huge big deal, and it's a big old gathering, and it's a party. And if they were gone, would they have come back to Kelowna Tiny Town on the 26th? That I've heard no mention of them coming back into town. So to me, the bikers are a dead lead.
it may have nothing to do with them.
I don't.
The incident could have happened, with other people. I did hear that it was said that a polite young Englishman spoke to the bikers. I heard that from a biker person, quite a scared biker person in Kelowna.
Which, I mean, Charles talked to everybody else. He probably did. But my thing is like Charles, they left on the 19th or 20th, at least by the early morning of the 20th to get to Falkland. But Charles was seen 6 days later in Flintstones. And then he was seen on the 6 days later on the 26th in Flintstones, as well as cashing that check. So how would they have any involvement with his death if they weren't there? And then who does that leave you with? So 75 bikers leave Tiny Town. People were residents there, but there was also people that came into camp there. So like that leaves you with a very select few of kind of suspects if something did go wrong. If Charles did, what doesn't make sense to me is that he would leave all of his stuff there and not come back for it. Why? You had brought that up in one of your interviews you did, and I'm sorry I don't want to play them because last time I got like a copyright for playing something. And so I'm afraid like if I play it, they're going to like take my channel, like the video down. So, but in one of the videos you had said like, it doesn't make sense. If he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, he could do that. He didn't need to disappear. There was no need for him to do and to leave his stuff. There was no need for him to like take off. He was, like he wouldn't have done that. Like he didn't need to escape from anything. Like there was nothing. It just doesn't make sense and then you got these 3 people that divide up his things amongst themselves. And the owner, the manager, has been intimidating everyone until his death in 2021 to be silent. And people are scared of him still till 2021. So to me, we're down to the tiny tent down unless there's just, like if there's a trail of Charles somewhere else besides that he would go to and just leave all of his stuff behind. Because you got to think all of that stuff was there. Then all he had with him was $20, the clothes on his back, and that's it. $20 and the clothes on his back, and then that's it. And then he's just gone and vanished into thin air on the 26th. It makes 0 sense.
All the mail that I sent to him, the few dollars in the envelopes to General Delivery Kelowna, that was all returned to England. He never collected it.
He never picked that up.
And he knew there'd be, bits of money that I'd send in a card.
You had just got a letter from him that was very sweet. Thanks for the money, Mom. It's looking like our trips in August, those tickets are going to be for, $3,500 or what it said. Like he was actively looking forward to your birthdays in Hong Kong. And he was telling someone, was like, man, I really want to, like, basically with Joanne, I want to do this, but I'm worried because it's expensive. But he goes ahead and he sends it to you. So whether you ended up in Hong Kong or not, I believe that Charles had every intention of he was futuristic. He was making plans for August to be where he said he was going to be. So, I think that something happened to Charles, and hopefully that person out there we can just start getting loud and making a ruckus, and the person that was in Tiny Tent Town during that time, or just in Kelowna, or that knows something and that maybe they were afraid of Phil Flett, like to know that he's gone now. And like you're not really, you don't even, you had said this in a video, you don't even, it's not really about justice, it's just you want your son back. I mean, of course you want justice, but at the end of the day, if that person is out there, just know that, like, she just really wants her son back. You know, that's her son, and let her boy come home, you know. Is there anything that you would like to add as we kind of draw to a close here?
I'm just
that we
grateful
haven't touched on quite yet?
for everybody's support.
Absolutely.
So I've pleaded over the years, just please find the courage to come forward, call Crime Stoppers, call Sergeant Gosling, or email me in England, call me in England. I just need to know where his remains are so we can bring him home and lay him to rest with his beloved Nana in Cambridge.
Yes.
Too weary and too old to fight. Justice isn't important. Just to have him home. I'm 73 years old. Time's not on my side, so it would be nice and peaceful to have him back. Please help me.
Please help her. Yes. I'm going to read your email out loud. I think I have it. Let me grab it so I don't have to. And do you mind if I read your other phone numbers in case someone doesn't have an email? No. Can I read those that you sent me?
Sure.
Okay. Denise Horvath-Allan, and if you have a tip, if you know anything, please, please, please reach out. Like it's time. It really is time. Denise, DENISE, Allan, ALLAN. I'm going to read that again. DENISE, ALLAN at hotmail, hotmail.co.uk. Her cell phone number is 011447887854257. Her home phone number is 011442083326776. And then the Crime Stoppers number has been scrolling across the bottom is 1-800-222-TIPS 8477. And then there is a serious crime unit. His name is Sergeant Paul Gosling, and he is the NCO in charge of Charles's file, right?
Yes.
His missing persons file. And his desk number is 250-864-0567. His cell phone number, that was his cell phone number. His desk number is scrolling across the screen here. 250-470-6338. And again, all of these phone numbers, every single one of them, the email for Paul, the address, I put in as many phone numbers as I could get, but I wanted to put Denise's first because this is the mother that just wants her son to be back home. And she's the person, and I know normally you put the parent last and you put, this is the detective in charge and you really concentrate on that person. But this is the woman that wants her son back, and if you don't want to go to the police and you want her to go to them on your behalf, send her an email or call her, and then things can be figured out from there. And if you do want to go the other way, obviously she would be fine with that. But either way, let her know what you're doing, I think. I think that would be a smart move with everything she's been through. And there's already someone in the chat named Lance that was wondering. He called in a tip to Crime Stoppers, and it wasn't even sure if it ever connected with RCMP. And that's why I think it's important to not just reach out to say you wanted to email the detective. Go ahead and make that an email where you put Denise in that email and Paul. And his email is Paul, Paul dot Gosling, Gosling, at rcmp-gcr.gc.ca. And again, that's in the show notes. If you click and open up the description at the bottom of of the video, you can open that up and all of the links in there. I put every single link, and please go join her Facebook group and like that page, and then go ahead and go over to her YouTube, because she's got a ton of it's called Charles KJ Horvath-Allan, and she has these beautiful songs on there. She has all of this old, really great footage in, and she has playlists made to where you can actually, if you're more of a visual person, like, you can actually watch the videos, and I encourage you to go and watch the videos of the dive. And we just heard her emotional what happened to her that horrible day by the lake, and the days that followed right after that, and then finding out that wasn't her son at all, and all that they did to her. And there's a video about that. I just didn't want them to copyright it, because of the other two I played, I did get a copyright. So, but I really do encourage you to open up the description of this video and go and watch those, so you can really grasp what happened that day. I think it's an important part of the story. And again, thank you guys all for being here. And if there's any last minute things you would like to say to Mrs. Horvath, or I want to call you right now, Mrs. Horvath-Allan, or questions you may have, you got about a couple minutes here, and we can wrap up. And if anyone has any last questions. I think there was questions that were asked. We kind of answered this one earlier. Did Charles cash the check in 1989? And do you know for sure that, like, did they have him on CCTV? Was there ever a verification that the check was cashed?
Well, I think that was established between the police and the owner of Flintstones.
And the owner, you talked to the owner of Flintstones too.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good that you were able to talk to them and know first. Did that help you feel better about him?
Oh, yes, meeting her, and she sent me to a healer because I was so stressed. Absolutely dear lady.
Aw. Has there been any kind of, like, what kind of help do you need? What do you need as far as moving forward? What do you think the best concentrated effort could go towards? Like, are you planning on going back to Kelowna?
Possibly.
Really?
I hope, will be for the last time to bring him home.
Yes. Is there a fundraiser that you have set up, or like a way that we can help?
I don't have one
foundation
currently at the moment. They're short term, the few that we had.
Yeah.
It's very difficult asking for help.
Oh, but the world has how many people that live on this globe, and you have spent, I know at one point the news article had said over $50,000 You sold your business, you stopped doing it, and this became your new business, and this is like your full-time 24/7 job. And like, if you want to go back there and there's a way that we can like help to, and my thing is like, there's a quote by Mother Teresa, and I'm going to boggle it all up, but it basically says is like, that's what this world is about, is what we can do to help each other. And if you're not willing to help, like, what more can we do when we can take my $5, your $5, your $5, you, and you. And when we put that is a great help. Like $5 alone isn't going to do anything. But when we all come together and we all give $5, and you have 100,000 people giving $5, or even if it's, 400 people giving $5, that's not breaking anybody, but it's giving you that opportunity to, those $5 all add up to be a very big gift to you, but also to finding peace and finding your son. And that's why we're here in this community, like that's why, like, we're here for those kinds of things. So I don't want you to ever feel bad. And like, if you need any help with, I'm not going to put my name or anything on it, but I can definitely share it and help you design it. If you want me to make like a kind of a campaign theme, if we can start to really send out some emails and like start doing, I want to start asking around, because I have collected about, right now I have 4. Well, I have like 8 files that I have questions about. I want to know if these have been compared to Charles's DNA and what they have as far as Charles's dental records and DNA. And I have about 8 of those. And then there's 4 that I really want to know, so I'm going to start by like asking them if this is something that they can do on these unidentified remains that have been found that match up with the time and everything, if that makes sense. So if I found them on my own, I feel like there's other people in my chat and that will watch this later that are highly intelligent, and they can do the same thing too, and looking for unidentified remains that can be compared to Charles's DNA. And then I want to find the coroner and email him and see if we cannot get his half brother to volunteer to give his DNA. But when we all chip in together, it takes the burden off of that one person. And now we've distributed it among all of those. And that's kind of what Mother Teresa was all about. And so I would love to be a part of helping you. Like I said, I can make the missing flyers. I can also make a campaign for your return to bring your son home for one final time, and then really just try to, because what happens when you do those kinds of things, I mean, you've done it before, you're a master at it, is it brings up all, like, this is just a little channel. But when you start with a little channel and then you build and you build and you build momentum, and then that's where you get things happen. Each time that you had a campaign and you went, you made the news, you made sure to do, you know how to do it all. And I just want to help you do that like one last time and not just be it. So everybody out there, like, be watching for things in the future, and don't forget that, and I can help you. I can send you, if you have an article or you find something in Google and you want to know what all the newspapers are for that, just hit me up and then we'll do it together. And they don't have a NamUs in Canada, but so you basically have to go through and tag them in the map yourself to see if there's even a possibility that they could make sense, as far as, because Canada is ginormous, and so without knowing the terrain, you got to kind of really learn how to concentrate, and I can help you with that. I can help you with learning how to like search Canada's missing and do all that, because I've been doing that stuff for years. So yeah, does that sound like a plan to you?
Yes, thank you so much. God bless.
Awesome. Awesome. So we will see what we can get done, and me and you will keep chatting. I think you are amazing, and I'm so honored that you came on here tonight. Like I'm very honored by that, and I think you are an outstanding human being, and you deserve to have your son be home in a place where you can visit, and then when you pass away, you can be buried next to him. And I really hope that the people out there that know what happened to Charles just have a heart and think about him like this is a person. This isn't just like, oh, that problem I want to put in the back of my head and forget about. This is someone's son. This is someone's loved one. And like what if that were your child? You know, that's just something that you always have to remember. Like, what if that were your nephew, your niece, your grandson, your great grandson? What if that were your child? What would you be fine with someone else treating your child the way that Charles has been treated? And I guarantee you the answer is going to be a flat no. So just keep that in mind as you mull this over in your heart. Oh, Wild says that they can help with that as well.
Thank you.
And Unroyal is another YouTuber. He's very good. He has a brilliant mind. And he, he's in here today. I know there's just so many great people in this community. And so, yeah, well, you contact me, Wild, and yeah, let's just see what we can do. Start sharing. Thank you for sharing your story. This is from Paulette. Thank you so much, and that pretty much sums up how I feel about it too. Thank you. And we're not done. We're not done.
Thank you for being here today and caring about us. God bless.
Absolutely. Like I told you, his eyes just grabbed me. Something in his eyes just grabbed me. Maybe it's that kindred spirit of ADHD. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so we'll keep that. We're not done, like I'm never just done. I don't just tell your son's story and then I'm just like gone. So I tell all my families this, you'll probably be annoyed with me because you're like, why is this girl still messaging me in a month down the road? But like, I don't view these as just me having you on and then this is over. Like, I want to try to do something more than that. I want to try to do, because that's what you need. You need more than that. You need other people to tell your story. You need other people to spread it around. We need people in Canada to tell your story. If I have any Canadian friends that are YouTubers, please contact me. But it's not just done today. So I hope that is not something that you're rolling your eyes at, but I hope you feel like that's like good. You're happy that it's not done today. And if you want me to leave you alone, if you need some space or I'm overwhelming you, because I do know that like with ADHD and OCD, I can be overwhelming. So you make sure you tell me if I get on your nerves.
I'm grateful for any help.
I know.
It's been a long, lonely road.
It really has been very lonely for you.
I'm getting old.
Well, you don't look it. You look hot. I love your hair, but I can tell that you're tired and you're weary. And that's not okay. So one more plea out there, please, for the person that knows what happened to Charles. Just click on that, just click on that. I'll tell you how to set up a fake email, and that way you can be completely anonymous. I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so you get on Google and you go to something called Outlook.com, Outlook, and you want to create an email on Outlook Live. And on that, when you type that into your search bar, you go to Outlook and you can create a email that does not you don't have to put your name in it. You can put a fake name, you can put a fake phone number, you can put, something, just make something up like sillybird55 at outlook.com. And then you can send in a completely anonymous email to Mrs. Horvath. You can also create yourself a anonymous phone number, like on Google. You can create a Google phone number and you can have it will just all that will show up is that it's coming from the general area of where you live, like literally the state of Indiana, the state of, British Columbia. Like it's and then you can be completely anonymous and give the information that you know without ever even identifying yourself. Like, how cool would that be? So, if you want more information and you want me to help you, um, totally will do that too. And you can ask people, like, I don't tell who people are. So, even people that I don't like, I don't tell who they are. So if you want to, you can contact me too, but I want you to contact her. But my email is coldtruthpodcast@gmail.com. But you don't have to get a hold of me. You don't have to get a hold of her, but we hope you do. And please contact somebody. And thank you, chat. And thank you, Mrs. Allen, for joining me today. It was my pleasure. And we're going to go ahead and say goodbye for now. But this is not over.
Thank you
So
for having me.
I'll see you later. Have a good day, guys.